All right, 7 o'clock. We start on time. When I was I'm Pastor Steve Sullivan. I pastor New Beginnings Church down in Olive. I'm also the vice president of the chamber and many other things. And incredibly good looking, like long, quiet walks on the beach, things like that. Actually, last week I was on the beach. We went on a cruise. So. But anyway, there's a site for it. But welcome everybody to the candidate forum. And something that to notice here is we know that all the city positions are being run for, the mayor and both of the aldermen. And so what you see here is the future of New Haven and the future of our city. Those that are elected will be making decisions that will affect this city for an untold amount of years. And so I appreciate every one of you that are up here and your decision, your desire to run for public office. It's a couple of years you may regret doing that, but public office is a very high calling and important calling, and so we're very glad that you're here, and I'm very happy to see a good gathering of people here today. And I'm going to moderate this evening, but I was asked to talk about a subject that we had at one of our recent chamber get-togethers, and I was asked to do a shorter version and a condensed version. But there's something there's a fine line between success and failure, genius and stupid, and especially in business, especially even in city government, running the city. There's one common issue that will make even a city and the focus and the point that will make or break is what will make a community fail is lack of unity. Lack of unity is what makes communities fail. All of us here, we have put in blood, sweat, and tears into our lives, into our community. I call New Haven the jewel on the river. It's a beautiful, beautiful town. I love being here. I've been pastoring here for 14 years, and I just found out I'm the longest serving pastor in town, so that's kind of crazy. But working together for the future of this city. There was a saying that was going on some time ago that really kind of got on my nerves. A lot of people were saying, well, people don't know that there's New Haven down here. That is completely untrue, absolutely untrue. The thing that I've noticed in the 14 years I've been here is that New Haven used to be, let's stop here as we're passing through. Well, now New Haven has finally come because of revitalization of different parts of the city, even industry coming, and the downtown, different features that we have here, is that now New Haven has become a destination. I have friends and family all over the St. Louis area that continually talk about all the different times that New Haven is featured on the news, and we see an uptick in traffic coming into the city. And to make this a further success is if we all work together for a common goal. A lot of us, many times, we have what I like to call the toddler mentality. If anybody's ever worked any retail at any time in your life, which I believe everybody should work retail at some point. Anybody who has worked any type of retail has realized that people throw temper tantrums just like a toddler. They just have a better vocabulary. And so to understand, and what comes to that toddler mentality many times is we suffer from, this is mine, this is mine, this is mine. And you don't want to share it with anybody else, just like a toddler. And we try to teach our children, that's not how you need to be able to share. Well, we need to be able to do that as a community, to work together. Does that mean we have to agree with each other all the time? No. That's not what unity is. It's a different philosophies, different ideas coming together and working in consensus. But the main idea, the main focus is to really push forward New Haven, to show how it is different from other cities in this area. And Henry Ford said, "Coming together is a beginning. Keeping together is progress, and working together is success. Again, it's good to have different opinions and different viewpoints. That's how we come to make decisions. When I retired from Quick Trip, I worked there for 25 billion years, and I still have at least 2 or 3 times a week Quick Trip dreams. It's terrible. But I worked with this guy, and we got along really well, and a buddy of mine, but he was an atheist. And then one day he was like, I don't understand how an atheist and a preacher can get along so well. I'm like, it's because there's other things to talk about. He obviously doesn't want to hear anything about the church or about Jesus or any of that kind of stuff. And so I'm not going to try to beat him over the head with it. And then, I don't want to necessarily listen to about how he doesn't believe in anything, which is kind of funny anyway, as it is. But that's something where we'll have a disagreement on. But yet we had other things we agreed on. And other things that we could find to bring that unity together so that we could work together to make that business succeed. Really, the success or the failure of New Haven is here in this room. The success or failure of New Haven is here in this room. We cannot survive as a community with the me and my 4 and no more. It's not going to happen. How can you contribute to your community? All of us have different abilities. All of us have a purpose, actually given to us by God for a reason. Not everybody is called to be a mayor. Not everybody is called to do this or that or what have you, or the particular business owners we have here. But all together, the Bible explains it as different parts of the body. You may think that your pinky toe is nothing and insignificant, but you sure change your mind whenever you're waking up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom and you bust it onto your dresser. You're very well aware of the existence of your pinky toe. And but yet it's important. It's extremely important to have. In college, I had this buddy that he was mowing lawns, and this was before you had the shut-off, the safety feature on here. And he was going up a hill, and he lost control of it and came down and took off his big toe. And you find how important that big toe is to balance your coordination. But the best part about it is that he got a handicap sticker, so we made him drive everywhere. We got VIP parking all the time. That was really nice. So those benefits. But so today, even up here on these tables up here, we'll have people with different opinions. We'll have people with some different visions, and we're here today to listen to that. And there will be, on Tuesday, April 8th, is our election, and there will be some people who will be elected to those positions. And it may not be the one you voted for. But we're here to work together, to find common ground and be together in unity. This is a quote that I ran across some time ago, and I just really love it. It's individually, we are one drop. Together, we are an ocean. Individually, we are one drop. But together, we are an ocean. Unity. To work together and find ways to work together. Don't be the toddler, be the grown-up. Find ways to work together. So what we're going to have here is we mailed a list of 7 questions to each candidate here. So like so they had a chance to, and some of them are difficult, and so they had time to prepare some of that. And also we're going to have questions asked by the audience here, but we need you to fill out, if you do have, I have a couple up here, but if you do have a question you'd like to ask the candidates, or any one of them, or have all of them answered, whichever way you'd like, fill out an index card back there. And then we'll, if it's a copy or a duplicate, we're not going to keep asking the same question over and over again. And then I will present that to them that way. So that way we keep everything nice and even. Each candidate has 2 minutes for their answers. If they happen to go under the 2 minutes, that's okay. That's not a problem. And but they do have 2 minutes, and so and gentlemen, I ask you that when you hear that beep, even if you're in the middle of a sentence, you're done. And then I will enforce it. The first infraction, you will lose your pinky. and then we'll just go smaller digits from there. So anyway, what I would like to do first, I realize that most of us know each individual here, but what I would like to do is we can just start down there at the end with Kyle and work our way back. So I hand the microphone. And what I would like you to answer, this is not in your given list of questions, but is who you are, what you're running for, and what made you have the decision to want to run for public office.
Well, first, thank you to the Chamber for organizing this event, and thank each of you here for being here. For those of you who don't know, my name is Kyle Quick. I've lived in New Haven my entire life, and I'm running for Alderman in Ward 1. Brief background about me. Earlier in my career, I worked as a paramedic, which taught me how to make quick, level-headed decisions under pressure. I later served on the New Haven School Board, gaining valuable experience in governance and community leadership. I hold a bachelor's degree in business marketing and currently oversee marketing and communications at my employer, where I focus on strategic planning and community engagement. I'm running for Alderman because I truly care about this town and its future. I want to help ensure New Haven continues to grow in a smart, sustainable way by supporting public safety, improving infrastructure, encouraging economic development, and keeping our local government transparent and accountable. I look forward to sharing my vision with you tonight, hearing your ideas, and earning your trust to serve the community.
Very good.
Hi, I'm Tony Carosella, and I've lived in New Haven since 2004, so I've been here for 25 years, and or 21 years. And before I came to New Haven, I worked in an architectural engineering firm, and had lots of experience in all kinds of photographing all kinds of things for industrial and commercial companies. I also taught at St. Louis Community College, Maryville, Webster University, and Humsel. And I taught all kinds of the digital and Adobe Creative Cloud classes to various students in their art schools. So when I came to New Haven, I really noticed that, well, the first person I really met in town was Ralph Haynes, and became associated with Ralph and his Riverfront Mercantile, which turned into RCS, Riverfront Cultural Society, and so did a lot of promotions and things with Ralph and RCS. Since I've been here, I've been on the park board. I've been on planning and zoning for several years. I've had 2 terms as the chamber vice president and also 2 terms as the chamber president here in town. And then I also served as the editor for the New Haven paper for about 5 years. And since then, I've now switched over and I'm the editor in Irving. So I got quite a bit of experience and lots of insights with planning and zoning and also Board of Aldermen. So, yeah.
Very good.
Okay.
You good? Okay.
Yeah.
My name is Dave Leakey. I want to thank the Chamber, for having this forum tonight. I think it's important that you folks, and I thank you guys for coming out and listening to what we have to say or what our views are and things. And, you know, I thought Pastor did a great job on the intro there. There's a lot of unity that needs to be involved here, and I think that's something we need to look at down the road. I've lived in New Haven for most of my life. I've lived out of town here just a couple miles for about 20 years, but I've worked in New Haven. I taught at the high school out here for 21 years. I went to Eureka High School and taught for another 9, retired. My wife and I owned a business downtown. Then they lost their shop teacher, so I'm back to teaching again, and I love it. And that's one thing about New Haven. I love this, the community, the kids, and what they do, and how we do things. Also owned the Hilltop Lounge for about a number of years. Of course, that's a long time ago. But I've also been involved in Downtown New Haven Inc., where I've been president for the last 4 years, which has done a lot of great things in that area. The Lions Club, Nice Columbus, and some other organizations throughout. The biggest thing, that got me into this was my father was an alderman years ago. He was always involved in the city, and we always talked a lot about it. I've seen this city progress. When I was younger, we were a town of 1,200 people at that time, and now we're up to about 2,400 people. So there's a lot of growth here. There's a lot of growing we need to do yet too, I believe, as we go along. And that's something we need to look at. We've got to raise that bar, keep raising it, and keep doing things that's going to make us, like as the destination place, more people come visit and live and work. That's a big thing we have to look at. That is the future. And plus, we got a lot of issues we need to look at as far as, the workforce and things like this. But we're a small town in a big city area, and it's going to be difficult. And it has been difficult. And hopefully, if elected as mayor, I'll be able to give some ideas and help with that.
With that 3 seconds to spare.
My name is Steve Bertrand. I'm originally from Cape Girardeau, Missouri. I went to Cape Central High School, graduated from Southeast Missouri State University with a Bachelor of Science degree. Then later on, obtained a Master of Arts in Teaching degree from SEMO. I met my wife, Kathy Kormeyer, in college. I came here the first time, I think, in late 1972. In 73, I moved up here. Kathy and I were married for 43 years before she passed away. I then married Jennifer Bonwich, my wife now, and her husband passed away 2 weeks from the time my wife passed away. But anyway, after my wife died, I purchased a house here in New Haven. I've been in the New Haven area forever, it seems like. I'm firmly entrenched here. When my wife passed away, people thought, well, why don't you come back to Cape Girardeau where all your family is? But my true family's in the New Haven area. Most of the people in this room I know. Most of you know me. You know who I am. You know what I'm all about. I was a teacher for 20 years. I was a professional stone sculptor for 16 years, traveling around the country. In 1996, my wife, Kathy, went to a wheelchair, and I gave up my sculpting career and became a teacher so that she could finish her own career in teaching. And I've always had a passion for New Haven. I belong to a bunch of organizations in New Haven, Preservation Society, the Garden Club, Chamber of Commerce, the CDC, Community Development Committee. So I've been active in the community a lot. I've helped Dave quite a bit with Downtown New Haven Inc. I remember that too, and worked at different festivals and all that sort of thing. So New Haven is in my blood. It's where I'll be till the end. And when I first stepped up to this office, I thought, well, I'm 75 years old. This is not a proper time to be entering politics. That kind of stuff. That's all about me.
But it was good. All right. So we'll mix up the order now, so that way, Kyle will be first every single time. So, Steve, if you don't mind, we'll start with you, and we're going to be hitting our list of questions. Again, we have 7 questions here that we gave them ahead of time. Let's see if I can actually do 2 things at the same time, but don't tell my wife I was able to do that. Okay, there we go. And so, first question, and then we'll just go down the row for number 1 is, what is the function of city government? And there is an actual answer. But what's the function of city government?
Well, city government has several things that it should do for its citizens. It should maintain the infrastructure that it has, things like roads, bridges, water towers, parks, that sort of thing. It should also provide safety for the community, ambulance, police, things like that. It should provide services like trash pickup, sewer systems, water supplies. It should regulate land use for the city with people's property and businesses, making sure that ordinances are followed. So it's those sorts of things that a city needs to be able to do for its citizens, and in return, the citizens should appreciate the city for doing those things.
I guess it's similar to Steve's to the point, but we need to provide responsible services to maintain order within the jurisdictions of the city. And that might be public safety, that includes the infrastructure, includes community services. All those things the city has to take care of to keep their residents in mind as far as providing them the services to make them succeed, make them viable, make our city succeed. And while we do all this, we also need to think about the economic development and managing growth. It all plays hand in hand, and it's a tricky situation sometimes in trying to do that because, you know, there are needs and there are wants. You know, and the needs, you know, you got to take care of them, and that's just the way it is. And, you know, when we look at that, I know that's not the right answer for everybody sometimes, but we got to be able to agree. And like we talked earlier, you know, we got to be able to respect each other's opinion when we do this. If people want to come to the city meetings, that's great. They have public comment. I know I've attended many and I've talked to public comment, and the city has been really gracious to me and let me say those things once in a while. But the biggest thing too is, you know, if we don't have these services, you know, I look at our streets, I look at our utilities, I look at what we have, and I look around the other communities around us. I think we've got pretty good right now for the most part. I really do. And I think that's something where we can still continue to raise that bar and get better yet. And that's something we have to, and it's not just who's going to be here or who's going to be on board. It's basically going to come down to everybody in the community working together. What organizations can help each other? What can the city do to help with some of these organizations, or what can these people do or residents do to help the city? We need planning and zoning people on their committee. We need park board good people on committees. We need involvement from the community, and hopefully that's something at a level that I hope our new board or board and new mayor we can do.
Pretty good. Tony, what is the function of city government?
Okay, well, Steve, I thought this was a trick question. So I went down to City Hall and I talked to Kathy Druckman, and she kind of rolled her eyes and was like, what? She goes, well, obviously, the function of city government is to serve the citizens. And so, of course, you know, serving all of you, that's of key concern. And to be able to, you know, I guess to expand on that is to be able to keep people as informed as we possibly can. Once upon a time, when I was the editor for the New Haven paper, I shot video of all the Board of Aldermen meetings. And I did that on my own. Tonight. And so I'm going to post this tonight so people can get a look. If they haven't been able to make it to the meeting here tonight, they'll be able to see this meeting and, you know, so also be informed about that. So in terms of serving the people, some of the things that I guess I've done naturally from when I first got here is I would photograph and shoot video, and then I would give that to all the different, like the city, well, if you look at the city's website, a bunch of pictures of mine on the city's website. Just a couple months ago, I helped the Preservation Society, shot a video for them, they submitted it, and in combination of doing something like that, they got a great grant for the Annabelle Chapel. So I've been working with the city to try and help in all different kinds of ways. And of course, the whole idea is to raise the vibe that is New Haven. Because once upon a time, maybe 10 years or so ago, New Haven had a better vibe. New Haven was more artsy. So we're trying to get back to that.
I just wanted to hear the noise.
Well, I guess I'll repeat everything that they all just said.
That's all right.
All right. So basically, to kind of add on to what these guys have said, city government exists to serve the community through essential services, long-term planning. If you live outside the city, you don't have those same services, such as maintaining our roads, water, sewer, gas systems, trash, recycling. If you live outside the city limits, you have to take care of getting your own trash picked up, whereas if you live in the city limits, it's kind of an all-in-one thing. It's also about supporting our public safety through our police departments, coordination with our fire and EMS districts, It also plays a key role in planning for future growth, as Dave said, through zoning, budgeting, infrastructure investment. But one thing is, what is city government not? It's not private business. It doesn't aim to make a profit. It's not about national politics. It's not run by one person. It requires collaboration between aldermen, the mayor, city staff, and most importantly, the public. As Dave mentioned, all the different boards that we need the public to serve on. It also isn't unlimited in resources, the needs and wants. So we have to address our needs first and then our wants. We must prioritize and stretch every dollar to meet the needs of our residents. In summary, it's the government closest to the people, solving everyday problems and improving the quality of life of New Haven for the residents.
Very good. All right. Thank you. One item that I forgot to mention is that there are other candidates, but for example, Megan Lang, she's running for Ward 1 Alderman. She has a catering job tonight, so she wasn't able to make it. And then the one who has really probably the lamest excuse has got to be Ted Radicki. He had foot surgery, like a major surgery. He's actually right across the street getting a rehab at the care center, so that's why he wasn't able to make it. But he's running for Ward 1 Alderman, so that's why he's not here. So, all right, Tony, why don't we take you first?
Okay.
And I promised like I could at this before this thing's over. Here we go. Question number 2 is, what is your economic development plan for the city of New Haven?
Okay, so there's several things that kind of have to happen, and of course, whenever you're doing an economic development plan, when you're starting from whatever you're starting from, it's not going to be a quick fix. So some of the things that have to happen, hopefully that we can have happen that work in conjunction, are to basically raise awareness of New Haven and put it in more of a positive light. Like, for instance, if you saw the Channel 2, when Channel 2 came to town, that was a great pick-me-up for a lot of the businesses, whether both uptown or downtown. Also, another thing that we have to keep in mind is that sometimes downtown gets more attention than uptown. And so a lot of times, whatever we're doing, we have to combine uptown and downtown in however as possible as we can, because I've noticed, and I've talked to plenty of people that are on uptown, and some of their complaints are like, well, why aren't you just promoting uptown along with downtown? So that I think that's a really good point. By giving more awareness, what we're hoping eventually to be able to do is to attract more people to come to town, whether they're going to live here or also to be able to be more of a tourist kind of come and visit and look at the various businesses that we have here in town. That's about it.
That's good. Very good. All right. Steve, if you could answer that question. What is your economic development plan for the city of New Haven?
Well, I think one of the first things is that our local businesses need to be supported by anything that the city does. If the city needs to purchase anything, local people should be contacted first to see if they can provide whatever the city might need. That's one thing. It's already here. We don't have to work at it to get it. It's here. We need to also attract some light industry to the town. We can't really do anything like running a steel mill or anything like that, nothing heavy industry, but light industry, like Washington has, somewhat Herman has, even though Herman's more of a tourist town. But we need to attract more light industry. Along the highway here, there's lots of opportunities. There's industrial courts. Things can happen with light industry. Along with light industry, you have to have workers. So then there would have to be building going on to provide workers for businesses to thrive. So that has to be another thing. Another thing is downtown tourism. We have a wonderful historic infrastructure downtown. We've had an effort made at tourism in the last couple of years, but they've been rather unsuccessful. And I know COVID has really set us back downtown and just about everywhere, with lots of inflation also added into everything. The tax base is shrinking. We've had over 20% tax losses the last couple of years in New Haven, so budgets are strained at the moment. Inflation, of course, that always takes a bite out of everything. I think it's been 26% inflation since 2017, so that's taken a lot of money out of our system too. We need to make improvements to our downtown riverfront as well. I think it should be a lot more boater friendly to boaters off the river, and those are some of the things that I'm thinking New Haven actually needs.
All right, Kyle, if you could answer that question, what is your economic development plan for the city of New Haven?
So, in my opinion, I think we need to expand our industrial base by making developments in New Haven as seamless as possible. So I want to build on our strength by promoting industrial development. You know, we have an industrial park area with some room to grow, and I would like to attract new businesses and help existing ones expand by making sure the infrastructure and support they need are in place. We should partner with private companies, support infrastructure improvements, and look for state or federal grants to offset costs. At the same time, we need to work with local builders and realtors, because as we're bringing in jobs, we need to ensure there's housing development keeps pace with the job growth. If we bring in new employers but don't have places to work to live, we miss the opportunity, which is, I think, kind of where we're at right now. In my opinion, public-private partnerships are the key. If we share in the investment, we can share in the long-term benefit with more jobs, more tax revenue, and a stronger local economy. Overall goal would be to grow the tax base, create those local jobs while keeping New Haven's small town charm, a business-friendly town that welcomes growth and opportunity. So if we can grow and remain small, we don't need to be like Washington, we can still be New Haven, but growth has to happen.
You know, economic growth is an issue that we need to look at and to get more of. You know, how do we attract more businesses to this community and industry and residents and more people to move here? You know, one, we need to highlight our community's unique abilities, our unique qualities, and how established businesses and industry can benefit from. You know, we have a very unique area. We are in an area of growth. You look at Washington, you look at Herman to an extent, but you look at Washington, how westward growth is going. It's coming this way to a point, I hope. But we have to help with that. We have to, you know, work with, the city has to work in making sure our infrastructure is set up for this. We do have industrial areas plats that can be put in where business can go. The Industrial Development Corporation, the Community Betterment Society, these gentlemen are working at this every day. Yes, these guys, you don't know who's on these boards because they don't want promotion of it. But those folks bring business in town. They brought entities in town a long time ago, and they were a big factor in that and in some other businesses. Again, zoning and permitting improvements, those are things that we can look at on an individual basis too, to a point. What benefits the city? What benefits the community? How is it going to help in our growth? Like, you know, Kyle said, can we maintain growth and keep our uniqueness? And I think we can. But it's going to take a lot of collaboration from a lot of people. You know, we got to prioritize community involvement. You know, we need people's input. We need to hear from folks to a point that, what are your ideas? And we have to be respectful in listening to them, and hopefully they're respectful in our views also when we do that. Okay. The school did, you know, with the Chamber of Commerce, for instance, you know, we need to work with them. We need to focus on, you know, putting New Haven out there. What can we do to make it more viable to be here? Our school district, we have a great school district. It's one of the top in the area, and hopefully that will help us down the road and get people to move here and industry.
Very good. Boy, I was more coordinated than that. All right. Kyle, if you could go first on number 3. In February of 21, New Haven natural gas users were price gouged, as defined by the Missouri Attorney General's office. What will you do to recover the amount that was price gouged, and how will you get the federal government to change regulations so this doesn't happen again?
So the 2021 natural gas spike during the winter storm was obviously devastating. While it's called price gouging by the Attorney General, Missouri does not have laws in place to prevent it. It doesn't make it right, but it limits what can be done retroactively. Still, the city did fight back and recovered over $104,000, which has been credited back to customers. Moving forward, we need to advocate for legislative change. I will work with our state legislators to push for laws that prevent future price gouging on utility rates. On the local level, I'd also explore policy changes for how the city buys or reserves natural gas. Perhaps we could look into smarter contracts with our gas suppliers, such as securing fixed rate agreements or emergency plans that cap spikes. We should at least have a contingency plan, maybe setting aside reserve funds during normal times to cushion the impact of any future gas market craziness. The key is forward-looking action.
Very good. Dave, if you can answer that, do you reread it?
No, I'm good. And like Kyle said, it was devastating. I remember, it was a big thing, and it was unfortunate that it happened. But like I said, I know at that time the Aldermen were asking us to send in complaints to the state, to the Attorney General about it, which would help in trying to cover that. It didn't seem to go very far, apparently, to a point at that time. And that's something that is unfortunate in that regards too. Like, again, it's something that we have to work with our legislators. We have to say, hey, this is not right. What can we do to make it better? In the city itself, can we change some things to help where it doesn't happen again? That's, I'm not even sure now, but that's a possibility. I mean, we don't have a lot of information to it, but I do know that with there was some money back and there was refunds given. How it's distributed, how it's proportioned out, I'm not for sure. But, at least there was something coming back. And, if you have more questions that I think even now, some of that you can direct towards some of the folks that are still there. But, again, we're going to be there, whoever's going to be there the next month or so, it's something that we probably need to look at more as we go on. We don't want it to happen again. Obviously, at times, with money being tight, everything like this, is something that is going to be a continuous look, and hopefully get some things solved.
The natural gas issue, it's a problem. I've communicated with Andrew Bailey, the Attorney General of the state of Missouri, several different times over the past month. February the 8th, I think I sent my first message, was ignored. March the 2nd, I sent another message, ignored again. Finally, just a couple weeks ago, I communicated again, and they finally then turned me over to the Consumer Protection Agency in Jefferson. And again, I've not heard a word back from them. I really don't think the state of Missouri is too much interested at this time in taking up the old issue of natural gas. We're just a tiny town in central Missouri, and I'm not very optimistic that things are going to change. I don't think the state of Missouri really cares that much anymore about the natural gas gouging that we had. Governor Parsons in February 2021 said we were gouged, but since that time, nothing's really evolved, nothing's really come about. So I'm pessimistic about it. I don't think anything's going to happen. What we can do, we can urge our legislators to maybe do something about it, but that's about as much as we can do. I've been ignored by the Attorney General, so I don't know where to go from there. I just honestly don't know.
All right, we'll start with.
Oh, I didn't answer.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were first.
No, that was Kyle.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I've talked to several people about this, and when it actually happened, I had my daily broadcast, and the city asked me if I would get everybody kind of on board to reduce the amount of gas usage. So through my little daily broadcast, I got a message out to a lot of the folks in New Haven because, of course, as you remember, we were all iced in and everything too. So anyway, and then we met together, and by keeping the gas usage down and then us paying up front, it reduced the financial penalty that a lot of other cities around here had to eventually pay, because the city residents paid a little bit more up front and eliminated our paying a little bit later, whereas Washington and Herman both got dinged pretty bad. Eric Holder at the time was the guy who was in charge of handling the price gouging. And I talked to Tim Otten. Tim Otten had repeatedly contacted Eric, and Eric at that time all of a sudden decided that he was going to run for higher office, which he eventually did. And basically Tim was pretty much ignored and probably had the same kind of results as like what Steve had when he tried to talk to the state capitol. Things that we can do, of course, now our state rep is Steve
Johnson.
Johnson, and then Ben Brown, our state senator. And I attended last month's meeting in Washington and got to know both of them a little bit better, so maybe have a little in on that.
Very good. Okay, I'll try not to skip over you.
Thank you.
Again, starting with Kyle here, question number 4 is, for the last several years, residents have complained about the unsightly appearance of the water tower as you enter New Haven. What will you do to clean up this water tower, and what will you do to ensure that it will not happen again?
Well, to be frank, in my opinion, it's kind of a moot point. The current board has already budgeted the water tower to be painted and cleaned during the summer at the last board meeting, if anyone's there. Dave Blankenship stated he was working on sending out the RFPs for the project, so you take care of it and done.
Let's just skip the question then. Yeah, pretty much. There you go. That kills it up. Very good. Thank you. Let's start with Kyle again. That works. Question number 5. The city's comprehensive plan is beyond its 2020 timeline. How would you propose we update our comprehensive plan, and what do you think needs to change in the plan?
So it's clearly outdated, and it doesn't reflect today's challenges, like our housing shortages, workforce needs, and infrastructure planning. We need to start the update now with community input and guidance from planning professionals, such as Dave has mentioned several times. We need to talk to those in our community and find out what those needs are. The plan should address how we grow responsibly. We need to identify areas of potential annexation, housing development, business expansions, and infrastructure investment. We also need to think long-term about things like broadband access and transportation. A strong, updated plan helps us qualify for grants, gives us a clear vision to guide every major decision. Our neighboring towns are, I believe, in the process of updating their comprehensive plans. I know Herman is updating theirs from the 1999 plan that they had done. But a clear roadmap for the next 10 to 20 years will help guide our city decisions, ensuring when, as New Haven grows, we grow smartly while preserving our small township.
Steve, can you answer the same question, please?
The question again? Comprehensive plan?
Yep, the city's comprehensive plan beyond its 2020 timeline.
In 2007, I was managing the Central Hotel, and I received the comprehensive plan questionnaire. It asked the citizens of New Haven, how do you feel about the future of New Haven? What do you think should be done? And at the time I filled it out, I thought this is a pretty good questionnaire. I don't know why we can't simply go back and do the same questionnaire that we maybe had back then. I thought all the questions at the time were pertinent. And I think we should just do the same questionnaire as the citizens of New Haven, with a mass mailing to the whole area, what the citizens of New Haven think their future should be. Then take the questionnaire, compile it, come up with some observations about it, and present them to the public, see how the public feels about it, and then just go from there. So, we had a census in 2020, and we probably should have had a comprehensive plan initiative at that time, but unfortunately we didn't. So it's kind of been ignored or neglected or whatever reason. But I think we just need to have a new comprehensive plan presented to the public, voted on, and then instituted after that.
Very good. Tony, repeat to this.
Okay. All right, yeah, so in terms of the comprehensive plan, now the things are a little bit more complicated in New Haven, and not quite so much where we could totally rely on people just by taking a poll. I think, so what I've learned from seeing what Washington is doing and what Herman is doing, since I am involved with both places and, on the board of alderman levels on both places, I've noticed that they have been getting great results from using a firm, an outside firm, to help with their planning. I think for one thing, since things have gotten a little more complicated, especially in terms of the things that we need to do for infrastructure, the things that we need to do for, like, for instance, security, for whether we're doing city meetings and things like that, City Hall, all of a sudden we've found that there's all kinds of problems that we've had where people are dumping things in our the compost thing over there. Yeah, so there's all kinds of, so besides security and infrastructure and utilities, the things that are also happening in town in terms of what we want to update, I think could be better served if we're going to use an outside firm to give us some feedback, and then also take into account what people in town might also want to do too, because we can first get the results from an outside firm and then get people's input on those things, improvements after that.
Whenever you're ready.
Definitely the CESA plan needs to be updated. You look at it, there's a lot of information in it that covers a lot of different things. And basically, what can we do to improve our community? You be downtown or the Highway 100 corridor. What can we do to keep improving our streets? What can we do to be improving our water system or gas system? These are things we need to look at, and we need to, again, I think an outside firm would help greatly in that, but we also have to have support from the community and their needs and wants too. What do they want us to look like in 20 years? What do they think we need to improve on? You can gain a lot of valuable information doing that, and you can get a lot of strong responses. We got, like I brought up earlier, and I didn't get to finish too much, but we got a great school district out here. We look at, it's one of the top public schools in this area. We're always 1 or 2 in the scores, and that's something we can look at. And we got a lot of our students that are involved in community and different activities. We got a lot of people involved, as they go on and move on, they come back and work. And that's something that we, for us in New Haven, that's a neat thing, okay? What can we do also to help with the downtown? We need to promote more too. I think we need some signage along the highway to help show what is in New Haven. A lot of people drive through, they may not see what's down there, but there is something there too. We got new businesses that have already come into town, and hopefully we can kind of keep promoting them. You got the Aspen Valley project, you got the new ambulance part, you got a couple of new businesses downtown. So it's neat to see that's on the uprise, but what can we do more? Again, we talked about raising that bar higher. And that's something we got to get everybody on board, and that comes with, again, what can we do to make New Haven better? What can we do to make it more prosperous? And that's the goal.
Very good. All Wasn't slick enough. All right, well, Steve, we can start with you here. Number 6. The number one complaint by manufacturers and businesses in the New Haven area is the lack of available employees. What will you do to bring adequate housing to New Haven to fulfill these needs, keeping in mind that the city is quote-unquote landlocked by mostly farmland?
In my opinion, New Haven's future is in light industry and tourism. Grab my microphone. In my opinion, New Haven's future is in light industry and tourism. I think that's the two things that New Haven has to offer. The problem is, it's a chicken or an egg thing. Which comes first? The people come and then industry moves in? It can't work that way. There has to be some assurances by industry that they would come here, and once the plans are in action, then builders can come in and provide construction of homes in New Haven. The Highway 100 corridor over here by Washington, where the 100 development is, that Bluff Road and 100 is an excellent example. It's near the industrial port. It's affordable. It's lots of apartments. People that work in the industrial court in Washington are flocking to that little place. I think there's actually 100 apartments there. That's where it gets its name. But if we could have something like that along Highway 100, that would be wonderful. There's empty lots there in New Haven. There's many empty lots where possibly small ranch homes could be built. There could be affordable housing for especially young people with maybe a couple of children. That would be a great solution for getting people in the community. But we have to have assurances by businesses first that they'll actually come here, or industries. So I was speaking to Gary Rustage recently, and he talked about the Economic Development Committee. We need to reactivate that committee again to go out and actually beat the bushes and see if we can find people that might want to come to New Haven to actually have a business here. And again, if we have the assurances that they'll come, then after that we can have building and we can have families move into the area to provide labor for business that might be here.
Okay, Tony, same question there.
Okay, in terms of bringing, let's see, the number one complaint of manufacturing businesses in New Haven is the lack of available employees. What will you do to bring adequate housing to New Haven to fulfill these needs? So certainly over the last few years, we've tried to bring in some various housing that's in New Haven. We had a gentleman that was going to put in an apartment complex off of Locust. And a lot of people were not very happy about that. They didn't want it in their backyard. But a lot of people didn't really realize all the stuff, how he had planned, the capacity, and he was willing to adjust in terms of the number of people that would be in that particular apartment building. Now, when as Steve mentioned, where we were talking about the 100 apartments that are along Highway 100 in Washington, we've tried to explore that over the last few years, and we have not been able to identify any kind of particular lots that are available to be able to put in that type of housing. So in terms of New Haven trying to put in something like the 100 apartments in Washington, everything that we've looked at over the last few years, and this is based on different developers coming in and talking to the Board of Aldermen, it's met with total resistance. Some of the things that I think we need to do is, whenever we're having a Board of Aldermen meeting, to be able to present whatever these developers are, whatever they want to try and do, to present this up in front for everybody to have an idea better than what might happen at a Board of Aldermen meeting, to where they might come in and just go, nope, I don't want to do that. Have a little bit more knowledge.
All right. Dave, take that question. Can you reread it for you?
No. Adequate housing and employees is a big issue. I mean, it's not just here, it's everywhere. I look at, yes, we can get more industry here. Yes, we can do more things to draw people here, but can we afford it too? You know, you look at what some of these companies are paying that are outside of our city or in different areas, they're basically taking employees from this area. What can we do to keep coming, to get this company to raise their rates, or can we pay more? And that's something we have to look at and work with them in doing that. And that's a struggle, because times are tough, bottom line is there, but is there a way we can keep them here? Now, housing, how can we have housing here? I know Tony talked about that a lot, where the Locust Street lot, where they were going to put apartment building, but look how many apartments we have mixed amongst our residential houses now, or single home dwellings now, and people don't like that. They didn't like it there, and that man has an opportunity to put houses in there too. So it wasn't like just one thing. But we do need some more commercial type housing, apartment type living, but we need to manage it. We need to put it in areas that strategically located in that it benefits where they work, if they're going to work in our industrial parks, or if they're going to live in Haven. And that's something we've got to do in that part. As far as landlocked, yeah, we are to a point. I'm not going to deny it. But can we work with some of these landlords? Can we talk to them some more? And I'm sure the city has. I'm sure they've been out there beating the bushes with them. And it's hard right now. But then again, we try to explain the benefits to them. We try to show them what can we do to help make this community better by doing this. What can they help in doing it? It's a pride thing. Can we make it better? And that's something we got to look at.
Well, to kind of add to some of the things Dave was saying and what he's kind of mentioned earlier about raising the bar, I think our first needs to be our mindset. Remember, everything surrounding New Haven was farmland at one time. Developments like the one near Siders happened despite being farmland at one time. I believe we can work with those who own land on the edge of town and create new housing opportunities through infrastructure expansion. We also need to engage builders and developers. In the city, if the city can help with utility access, road planning, or even permitting support, we can attract new residential developments. More housing brings in more families, strengthens our schools, supports our businesses, and gives manufacturers the workforce they need. Growth is necessary. We just need to guide it the right way. It's worth noting that our neighbors have tackled this issue too. The city of Washington, for example, didn't let being surrounded by farmland stop it from expanding. They worked with landowners to create a new subdivision like the Weber Farms development, which turned farmland into a neighborhood of 31 home sites. New Haven can do the same on a scale that fits our town. We could designate a growth area, maybe, say a certain direction from the city center and focus on opening that up first. Along with housing, I'd also ensure we are planning for things those new residents will need. Maybe a small park, safe streets, and connections to the rest of our town. Lastly, expanding our industrial park goes hand in hand with this. If we grow our industrial area and bring in more businesses, expanding our tax base, we will have even more need for housing. By showing flexibility, offering support, and frankly rolling out the welcome mat for development, we can increase our housing supply. We just need to let them know we're open for business.
Now we are going to the last of the preset questions here. So, Dave, if you can start us off on number 7. It says, because not enough taxes are collected in New Haven to adequately maintain the streets, the city has depended on grants to fill in the financial gap. However, in the last couple of years, the city of New Haven has received no state or federal grants for the streets. What will you do to fix this lack of funding from street grants?
Well, for one, we're not going to stop trying to write grants or trying to get the money to it. It's unfortunate maybe we weren't able to get access to it, but we also have a street maintenance plan, which I know the city is very involved in as far as what streets need to be repaired, when, and how. I also noticed they moved the Olive Street repair up also on this for this next year or year after. It takes a lot of time and research. There's other resources out there, but it's something that, you know, we need to have good streets. We do have good streets, but they do, some of them are in repair, need of repair, and they need to get better. Okay? You know, how can we do it? Cost-effective materials. I know they talked about the, like Sunset with the new type of pavement they put on there. Can they do it on other streets? the city does some of the work, but then again, what is the, we gotta look at how can we get it done efficiently, economically, and in a way that we meet some priority of what needs to be done. For instance, this street, I know this next year is supposed to be worked on, but are there other streets that might need a little more care or that might need to be a little more worked on? Do we need to move them forward? And then something also, we need to maintain our streets. God dang, if there's a pothole, let's get it taken care of. If there's some work we need to get done, let's get it taken care of. And I know our public works guys do that. And it's frustrating sometimes when you hit one, you don't think about that. But it is something that we need to look at more, and we need to keep, again, we need to keep writing grants. We need to keep looking for resources for money. Revenue-wise, yes, it would be nice if we get more industry, more people live here, work here, spend more money here. If that helps in developing our infrastructure more, so be it.
Steve, good answer to that.
Right now, Kathy Trenton is the grant writer for New Haven. Kathy's brought in tons of money into New Haven over the years through grant writing. I know right now, grant writing is not the most productive thing to do, but we have nothing else to depend on. We can possibly have a use tax in New Haven that might be increased and implemented. For those of you that may not know, use taxes have to do with internet sales, things that come into our community without being taxed first, can be taxed once they enter. I don't think it's fair for a place like Cider's Market to be able to charge people taxes when maybe goods from Washington can come in and not have taxes paid on goods that might be delivered here. So if we could have a use tax that could be implemented, I think that would be good. Getting back to Kathy again, I think Kathy is a grant writer. She's going to be retiring next September, and she's going to be training someone. I think Kathy needs to teach someone grant writing as good as she is at it. Kathy's very overworked lately. I was at her office the other day, and she has piles of paper everywhere on her table. She's behind in her work, but she tries to do the best she can at grant writing, but I'm afraid we're going to be dependent on it. And I know now with the federal government cutting back on all kinds of things everywhere, we may not be able to depend on federal funding so much anymore, but possibly the state. So I'm afraid we're just dependent on grant writing until we can get a bigger tax base. We've lost 26% of our taxes the last couple of years. Our budgets have to be slashed unless people want to approve a tax raise in New Haven, which I don't think they probably do. So we're dependent on it. We just have to go with grant writing some more until we can get some more industry in. Now, there's going to be more building. The new ambulance building is going to be built. There's going to be more senior housing built. So I'm out of time.
Tony, what we do to fix the lack of funding for street grants?
So first off, when we were talking about the comprehensive plan, I'm thinking that in conjunction, if we have an outside firm to basically help us take a perspective that we might not, because being kind of just in this town, we might become kind of myopic. And an outside firm would be able to help us get a fix on what other things are happening around the state and how other towns are working on these things. Also, to be able to spend some time with Dave Blankenship, our Public Works Director. He worked under Peter Otten, and Peter Otten pretty much had the smarts to be able to do just about everything that needed to be accomplished. He did a lot of those things because he had the expertise. But since Peter has gone off and been working in St. Louis, we don't have access to his knowledge anymore. But Dave is very knowledgeable. And so I'm thinking that in combination, if we work with Dave and get his feedback on what he might think that we can do to improve streets, and also possibly some information from an outside firm that might be able to tell us what we could also do, other options we might have, instead of relying solely on grant writing, because as Steve mentioned, it's not looking that great in the near future for what might happen in terms of grants being available to New Haven, especially since a lot of government things have been being cut. So relying on our in-town talent with Dave, and then possibly some advice from an out-of-town contractor to be able to help us get some expertise, those two things might be able to help us get on the right track.
All right, got it.
So I want to push back a little bit on the idea that our local tax revenue is completely insufficient for street maintenance. So most of you may or may not know, New Haven funds street maintenance through an operations budget and a dedicated transportation tax. I think most of you would agree our streets are in better shape than many towns our size. We should be proud of that. Just last month, the Board of Aldermen approved a 15-year street maintenance plan that outlines when each street will be resurfaced. Douglas Street, for example, is being redone this summer. Of course, I support applying for grants and will continue to do so, but we're not completely dependent on them. We're being proactive already, using the resources we have and planning responsibly for the future.
All right. You had a question? Now everybody knows. All right, now we have the public part. There were a lot of questions I had up here that was talking about the future of business and bringing businesses in and some of the things that we covered pretty well. But it shows, there is a lot of interest in that. But one question we have here, we can start with Tony. It says, well, actually, hold on. Yeah, so this is for the Ward 2 candidates. The downtown section of the city has a historic overlay district, which is intended to protect and maintain the historic features of the district. Is this something you care about and will see that the city honors the district's intent?
Sure. So, anyway, yeah, of course, preserving our downtown historic district is really important because we rely a lot on the charm for people that whenever they discover downtown, I think they're really delighted. And because when you're driving through on 100, as you probably all know, a lot of times people are like, they just think this is New Haven, this is all there is. And then when people direct people to go downtown and take a look, then all of a sudden they have an awakening of like, oh my gosh, there's a lot more to New Haven than just a drive-through on Highway 100. So of course we want to preserve the historic district and also the different requirements that the city put in place 15 years ago so that colors and things should be standardized and not have anything looking too out of place or too garish or too modern or competing against what the feel of the downtown looks like.
Very good. And then Steve, being the other Ward 2.
All of you know, probably in this room, that I led the fight to save the visitor center and the firehouse. I felt that the city disobeyed an ordinance. Excuse me, I'll trade the mic. I felt the city disobeyed their own ordinance for historic preservation of downtown. I bought a historic home in downtown. I went with the recommendations for colors when I repainted my whole house. I'm a strong preservationist, as many of you know, and I feel like if we have a downtown historic preservation district, it should be honored. If a building becomes derelict, the ordinance said that a building should be sold to someone that would then repair it, bring it up to date, modernize it, whatever that they need to do, but it needs to be preserved. That's what a preservation district is for. So I'm a strong preservationist. I'll always be that way. I've been an active member of the Preservation Society. I've worked with Annabelle Chapel, Alan Bill, and myself will soon be restoring a D-Dan painting, a home that I now own. We're going to be doing a painting for Annabelle Chapel once it's restored, this wonderful, generous grant we have. So again, there's preservation involved there too. So as you all know, I'm a preservationist. I'll always be that way. It's the infrastructure downtown is historic. It should be kept that way, and I'm a very strong advocate of it.
Dave, well, this will be for everybody, but let's start with Dave if we could. Regarding the 100 corridor and housing, is it true that there are several lots and buildings that are not being used or sold, such as Boondockers, that is prime real estate for growth on the upper side of town?
There's always room for growth with buildings that are maybe not being used to the full extent they are, but they're also private buildings owned by these folks. Now, if an individual or a group wants to say, hey, we got an opportunity here, we want to make, if we can put some housing here, or we can put some industrial here, what would you be willing to do to help us? If you don't want to sell it, that's one thing, but we also have to keep trying. Along the Highway 100 corridor, you got the field across from Pepsi, you got the field across from, across from BP. Those areas up by the water tower. That's a continuous, I think, battle that you have to keep trying to overcome and win by talking to these folks. It takes conversation, it takes dialogue. And I agree, I think a big part of it too is our IDC, our Industrial Development Committee, our Community Betterment Society. These guys are involved in a lot of talking to people, and I'm sure they've talked to these folks too. And hopefully we can kind of gain that attention. We look at Aspen Valley, which is going up by Siders. We look at the new ambulance house going up there. Hopefully that can resurrect some more housing in the back, because I think that's more residential housing and commercial housing as you go back, and there's a couple of people actually on top of the hill. So the goal is to do that. ELS put in, 9 or 10 units in the Heritage Valley subdivision. So, right along the Highway 100 corridor, is there opportunity? Sure. But you got to be able to work with the people, and are they willing to work with us also? It's just going to be a constant tug of war, but you can't just stop because they say no. What are the benefits for them to do it if they can? And what can you do to ensure that, hey, this is what we're talking about, this is what we want to do, and we're going to do it right. We're not going to put anything else there.
All right. Does anybody else have any input or insight to that question? I'll read it again, but regarding the 100 corridor housing, is it true that there are several lots and buildings that are not being used or sold, such as Boondockers, that is prime real estate for growth on the upper side of town? Does anybody have any input or insight that? Go ahead.
Yeah, Mike McZuke has Boondockers, and I know that plenty of people and developers have been in contact with him. And at this point, it doesn't look much like who's going to budge on anything like that. But like what Dave mentioned, right along the farmland, right across from Pepsi, that would certainly be a really good, likely candidate. But as Dave mentioned too, they're also not selling too. And now, of course, the folks at Herman Lumber with the New Haven Lumber, Danny Baumstark, he seems like he's a little bit more open-minded. I see him in Herman all the time, and I asked him what he was going to do with the the Siders lot right there, and he said, "I'll let you know if anything's going to happen." So there might be a possibility of something going in there. I know ELS had looked at that spot once upon a time, a couple of years ago. And a lot of people were trying to see if City Hall could move in where the old Siders was, but of course that was filled with asbestos, and that's why the Baumstarks and the Herman Lumber knocked down the old Siders. But now that seems to have given some possible new potential for a development going in there, and Danny seemed as if he was agreeing to that. Oh, okay, yeah, something probably is going to happen. He did tell me, so I'll let you know whatever's going to happen. So.
Very good. We're all almost done. Here's maybe a good one for Dave, but I'd like to hear everybody's input on this particular one. And this will call back to even something that Steve had mentioned. But will future city building plans include more public input than it has in the past?
I know, that does need to take place, I believe. I think people need to have an input on certain issues, but there's also, you're limited to with what you have. I mean, it's for instance, I'll just give you an example. The police department needs to go uptown. Sure. That is something that needs to be looked at, but where, how, what, and why. Is it a need, is it a want? So right now, it looks like it's kind of a need. Okay, doesn't it, New City Hall need to be put up in town? Well, that's more of a want. Can we afford that? No. And that's something, I've always believed we need to stay in that area downtown. I think a lot of people in this community that have lived here for a long time believe that also. Any type of structure, any type of business, sure, we need the community input on it. I think we need to have where folks can come in and look at the plans, evaluate, talk to the city. We need to be more transparent in some things, but there's some things you just can't at the time either. I mean, you can't just throw everything out there and say, hey, this is what we're doing, when it could have jeopardized maybe the final end result. So, yeah, I mean, when things start moving in, people want to see, for instance, if something does move in, like, for instance, the ambulance house, what they did with building it up there, they showed some things and showed the plans and tried to get the community more involved in that. I think that would be a big plus. Yeah.
All right, very good. Tony, saying.
Sure, and to kind of expand on maybe what Dave mentioned about, moving some things, the police department uptown. There's been some discussion as to possibly putting it in where the old ambulance office used to be, to be able to put the police officers up there. So I thought that is, could be a good option, especially since, I don't know if you've seen, there was a picture that Chief Neese posted yesterday or whatever about the train blocking downtown for 36 minutes. You all saw that. So that's kind of frightening that and normally they have, one officer up here and one officer downtown and to try and avoid that. But if, in a special case, that could be devastating in terms of depending on getting to someplace really fast. So a possibility of moving it up here is probably a really good idea. Another thing in terms of like getting the community's input on these different housings, that's some of the things that I'm trying to do, of course, is to let people know by doing these broadcasts and then maybe doing a weekly update on for New Haven as far as what's going on in town. And so fortunately I have the social media skills to be able to pull that off myself. We don't have to hire an ad agency or anything like that. That's a nice little thing in terms of moving the needle just a little bit in more of a positive direction. And then by being able to have people more informed, I think that also gives people a little bit more of a feeling of comfort, like, oh, ahead of time. So for me to be able to let people know, here's what you can expect for this coming week's Board of Aldermen meeting, and outline a few things instead of you having to go to the city's website and pull down the agenda. This might be able to have you have a little bit more of a comfort factor.
It says, will future city building plans include more public input than it has in the past?
Yes. But to add to that, the first thing is I do think a priority needs to be moving the police department out of downtown. I think that is so far overdue, it's not even funny. Should have been done a long time ago. There's so many things that can happen. Anybody even just try to rob anything. But yeah, public input you have to have public input. But at the same time, as Dave mentioned, there are certain things you can't discuss as you are preparing things for bids or things of that nature. So there has to be some trust in citizens of the elected officials that we're making the best decisions. But the overall planning, definitely, you should have input. You know, when they tried to do the last city hall, I thought that was a complete disaster. Everything that I saw, it didn't make sense. And again, back to what Dave said, the needs and the wants. We need to focus on our needs, and then if we get all those taken care of and we have extra money just floating around, then we can go to the wants.
Very good. Steve, we'll have you.
Yes, I definitely think that the people of the community need to have more input. I sometimes think that the people of the community feel a little estranged from the city decisions that are made. And I think that the best way that the input can come from the community is by another comprehensive plan. They can be asked about possibly annexation. There's voluntary and there's involuntary annexation. There may be landowners around New Haven that may voluntarily ask for annexation and receive city services. If it's involuntary, there may be a vote by the people of the city possibly to annex something, land that might be used. We are landlocked here in New Haven. We really don't have a lot of choices for expansion. I also think that the police department does need to come up from downtown and come out to the ambulance site if it's abandoned. But I think the citizens can definitely have input into the city by an extensive, comprehensive plan. So I think that would be the main answer in getting input from the community.
Very good. That concludes our forum, candidate forum. Gentlemen, I really appreciate that was a lot of work that went into those questions, and appreciate your time, appreciate your sacrifice and your willingness to serve our community. Everybody here, thank you so much for coming out. A lot of times when we answer questions, some more questions, I understand, but that's where discussion can happen, civil discussion. But I appreciate everybody with their time and being here. Shop local. Shop local. And if you want to start helping your community, here's a good way to do it. If you could help put these chairs away, that's your first step. They were all just around.